that this is something that Indian youth must also have back at home. With that thought in my mind, I came back. I quit my job after a year, and I started looking for properties. And in 2014, I opened my first one.
Hi, Pallavi. Welcome to Startup.
Hi, Priyanka. Happy to be here.
Great. So I will start with a little bit of introduction about us. So Startup aims to democratize entrepreneurship worldwide, and we provide smart, intelligent apps for joint venture development problems which are faced by entrepreneurs in the startup ecosystem. So basically, it is a market network for startup ecosystem, which is, as you know, it consists of student entrepreneurs, founders, investors, and incubators. And we also have a media buzz page where this interview will be uploaded, and we will also have it as a podcast. And I would want the generation to listen to your story and kind of inspire them to take the step in the entrepreneurship world, which a lot of people kind of are skeptical at times. But then I want them to understand that how you went through your journey so that they could learn from your journey. So welcome, and I hope you have a great time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we can start with a little bit of introduction about you.
Yeah, so I'm Pallavi. I'm the founder and CEO at goStops. goStops is a chain of backpacker hostels. We've been around for 8 years. I started my journey in 2014, wherein I opened my first backpacker hostel in Varanasi.
Mhm,
The year after, we opened our second one in Delhi.
mhm,
8 years onwards, we are at 32 locations with about 2,500 beds. We are hosting close to 25,000 young people every month. So far, we have hosted about 5 lakh young people across our journey so far. Yeah, so that's basically about us. What a backpacker hostel essentially is a hotel for the young people.
mhm.
So our primary target is 18 to 25-year-old young people, and our secondary target is 25 to 35-year-old early jobbers. So these are young people who would like to travel, explore the country, but on a budget. So we
Mhm.
make that available through
Okay.
the use of dormitories and private rooms. So that's what essentially a backpacker hostel is.
Okay. So can you elaborate on how you pick up a place and how do you choose a particular place to make it into a backpacker hostel?
So we pick up what is called the long tail hotel supply. So what essentially Oyo, Tribo, and Fab went after. So similar hotels,
Mhm,
and anywhere between 15 rooms to 40 rooms is what we tend to take over.
mhm,
Then we convert those hotels into hostels by adding dormitories. And the soul of our place is the common areas, because our common areas tend to have really state of the art facilities like pool table, foosball table, a co-working area, a game zone, home theater system with a projector, a lounge area which is open 24/7. So that is essentially where all the transformation is done, which is the common areas and the dormitories.
okay,
Primarily, we are looking at leisure destinations at the moment and the big metros. Eventually, we will go to smaller leisure destinations as well, and tier two cities,
mhm.
and so on and so forth. We will eventually expand to every part of the country where the youth has any reason to travel to.
Okay, great. Okay, that's really exciting. And can you tell me how this thought came about? What prompted you to start this backpacker hostel idea that you had? How did it come about?
Yeah, so a few of my friends were planning a Euro trip back in 2011. They were on a budget and they decided that they will book the trip for everybody. And we just sat on the sidelines thinking that, okay, let's let them do it. And that's the first time ever that I stayed in backpacker hostels in Europe.
Okay.
And when I saw that, I realized this is not there in India, and it's such a lovely concept. You get to meet people from across the world,
Mm-hmm.
and young people who are traveling for several months or several weeks. So it was a very enriching experience, and I felt that this is something that Indian youth must also have back at home. With that thought in my mind, I came back. I quit my job
Mm-hmm.
after a year, and I
Okay.
started looking for properties. And in 2014, I opened my first one.
All right. So, like you mentioned, you had a job. What kind of a job did you have?
So I had spent close to 10 years doing consumer behavior qualitative research, which is
Okay.
basically market research to understand why consumers like a particular brand, what do they like in a product, how does it fit into their life, what are the reasons behind it. So basically, a qualitative understanding of consumer preferences. So
Okay.
I'd been doing that for 10 years.
So, did that help
That
you in your venture? Did that experience help you in the venture that you started?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think because of the professional training that I had got for 10 years doing this,
Mm-hmm.
it gave me a, I started my career with a startup, which became a big company. Today is one of the biggest BPOs in the country. When it started, it was just 15 people when I joined the team. So I saw it grow.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with a lot of small companies during my tenure and big companies like Tata Capital and Millward Brown as well. Um, so it allowed me to see how to structure an organization, how to build teams,
Mm-hmm.
how to
Right.
hire, things like that. So that's one thing that I learned from my corporate stint. The other thing was the fact that I was doing consumer behavior research. I had been trained to listen to the consumer. So that allowed me to tweak the product as we went along the journey for goStops over the last 8 years. When we initially started goStops, it was meant for foreign backpackers because, as in, we always knew that we wanted to cater to the Indian audience. But at that time, Indians didn't know what backpacking was eight
Right.
years back.
Right.
They didn't know what hostels were. So at that point, obviously, the product was designed for the foreign backpacker that was already coming to India.
Mm-hmm.
And as in when and we were building for the Indian youth, we were already aware of that. But as in when the Indians started adopting this culture, we kept listening to what the Indians need different from the foreign backpackers and kept fine-tuning the product as we went along. So I think
Mm-hmm.
my professional training as a consumer behavior researcher
Did
really
have.
held me in good stead in tweaking the product as we grew.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you said 8 years. So during this time, yes, there was COVID and there was this pandemic that was there in the world. So did that impact your workflow in any way? Did the virtual shift to the technology side from everybody in the world, did that really hamper your processes or did it help you? What was the effect?
So the first wave, I think everything was in a lockdown. So
Mhm.
were our hostels. Our only priority was to take care of our teams at the ground level and the properties themselves, right? Because
Right.
6 months of lockdown would have meant that assets can get spoiled. So that is something that we didn't want, and we also wanted to make sure that our teams on the ground are
Safe.
making money. So that was our priority, but everything was in a state of lockdown. We were not hosting any guests at that point in time. As soon as the lockdowns were lifted after the first wave, young people were the first to take to traveling.
Mm.
And so very steeply we recovered and we got our guests back in the hostels. During the second wave, it was a shorter period of about 2 months that it was a state of almost a lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, we didn't shut the hostels down completely. There were still people in the hostels who were working remotely because work from home had become a real concept by
Right.
then.
Mm.
So there were people in staying in our hostel, working from home, working from the hostels
Okay.
instead of working from their homes. Right after the lockdowns were eased or the restrictions were eased after the second wave, in fact, the recovery was even more rapid than the first wave. And the third wave was, anyways, a very short period. So, yeah, so it did affect business, but I think because we're catering to the young people, we bounced back pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
We've all heard and read about revenge travel, but
Mm-hmm.
revenge travel is not as real in any other segment as it is for the young people. So I think our
Right.
recovery was very, very smooth as a result of that.
Right, right. That is true because a lot of people were stuck in the houses, and after the lockdown, people did want to come out. So
That's right.
that is, I guess, where the hostels would have really helped. Okay, so
Right.
tell me anything recently that you are doing, any recent project which in your current venture only, which is something that you're looking forward to, something that is coming up and which is exciting.
I think each project that we do is an exciting project for us because from scaling the company from one hostel, which is a 50-bed hostel, to today at 2,500 beds across 32 locations has been an exciting journey. We are currently working on our new properties in the south. We've been predominantly present in the north, but now we are expanding our presence in the south. Some of the centers that we are about to add are Uti, Coorg, Oroville, which I'm fairly excited about. Um, Other thing is that as a company, we are focusing a lot more on, L&D, because we are operators. We are full stack end to end operators. We are not aggregators. So we identify the property, we sign the contracts for the properties on a long term basis, we design the properties as per our requirements,
Mm-hmm.
and we run the properties on our own. The team is ours, the
Okay.
PNL is ours, the loss or the profit is all ours, right?
Okay.
So one of the things that we are focusing heavily right now on is learning and development. So that is one thing that is very exciting for us. How to make sure by March of 2023 we would be at roughly about 150 hostels, which means we would be having anything close to 1,500 to 1,800 people
Mm-hmm.
employed running these hostels.
Right.
So making sure that we get these people, we train them well, we keep connected to them even as we scale has
Mm-hmm.
been the biggest uh, task that I've given myself and my team. And as a result, we've been focusing heavily on learning and development. Very exciting things are being done. We are leveraging technology quite heavily to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that even my blue collar workers or my housekeepers who do not have an email ID or access to a desktop will be able to receive communication from me seamlessly and learn what to do every day
Mm-hmm.
without feeling disconnected from the central team. So I think tech has a big role to play, and we've been actively trying to solve that. And especially because we are not concentrated in one city. Like Delhi
Right.
doesn't have 10 hospitals right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are spreading ourselves geographically so that anybody who stays with us in one location can stay with us in multiple locations.
Okay.
So the challenge is even more to leverage technology to bring the team together
Mm-hmm.
and leverage technology to ensure that the customer is always connected to us. So another big project that we are working on, which is extremely critical to us, is our app.
Mm-hmm.
So our app is getting developed right now. Another month we should be able to launch it.
Okay.
More than just a booking platform and a platform to stay connected and tell us what is wrong with our hostels. It is also a platform that will allow the guests to connect with each other, even
Mm-hmm.
while in the hostel.
Hostel. Okay.
So because
Okay.
the hostels are essentially a social space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're staying in a hostel, let's say on 5th of March, there'll be, and it's a 100-bed hostel. So and it's occupied, let's say 70%. So there are 70 other people staying with you. How do you break the ice? How do you talk to
Right.
them? How do you plan something together?
Mm-hmm.
So the app is going to be critical in doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
even after you've left the hostel, how do you keep in touch with
In
your
touch.
friends?
Right.
That's
That
also
is.
on the app. So I think it's more of a community platform than a booking platform. So very close to our heart again. Another month, I think we should be ready to launch it in a beta testing phase.
That's great. That's really exciting. That's really a very great way to connect with people, and stay in touch
Yeah.
with the people that you interacted with. And sometimes you meet people who you kind of click with, and then you cannot get back to them because you don't have any connection. So I think this platform will be really welcomed by a lot of people there who stay there. So that's great.
I
Congratulations
assume
for
so.
that.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so my next question will be that you have a co-founder. So, how important, essential, or how is it to work with a co-founder? And you think it is essential to have a co-founder? And what kind of skills does a co-founder need to have? What do you look for in a partner?
So I think because of my journey over the last 8 years, it's extremely critical to have a co-founder. It's very difficult to build something alone because, when you start something of your own, it's very rare that somebody on the outside, even if they're mentoring you, and even if they themselves have been serial entrepreneurs, it's very rare that they'll be able to understand what you're going through,
Right.
because your realities and how you're interacting with the business realities of your business is going to be very unique because personally everybody is different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's very rare that mentors can fill in the gap for a co-founder. And as a CEO, as a founder, it's a very lonely journey, right? Because
Right.
till the time you're in a job, you have your bosses, you have your peers, you have your juniors, and you're all discussing everything, and half the times you can blame the company for everything that's going wrong.
Right.
But unfortunately, when you're building your own company and your own organization, there's nobody to blame but yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need a co-founder at that point in time. It'll allow you to tackle a lot of things, because number one, a founder has to do everything in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Most of the founders, when they start their journey, are bootstrapped. They don't have enough money to get teams on board. So you're also handling marketing, you're handling finance, you're handling operations, supply chain,
Right.
HR, everything you're handling, even though you've never done it in your life. But suddenly you're trying to learn all of this.
Right.
The moment you have a co-founder, you're able to divide these departments and do a better job of it from day one, right? A
Right.
co-founder is not a paid employee, right? A co-founder is somebody who's invested in the venture with you, who feels
With
the
you.
same pain and the agony if the venture doesn't do well, right? So it
Hmm.
becomes easier to tide through days that are not good if you have a co-founder, just to sit down and say, let's think about what happened today, let's think about what you're doing tomorrow. It allows you to do that, because a mentor, no matter how well wishing they are, will not be able to take that time and do that with you all the time. So I think a co-founder is extremely critical. It allows you to divide your workload, and it allows you to brainstorm when things are not going right, allows you to course correct because
Mm-hmm.
you question each other and you figure out an alternative solution sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
which really does make a difference when your company is evolving from a small company to a small startup to a bigger startup and so
Mm-hmm.
on and so forth. um, I think that's one bit. Secondly, I think, what was your next question on the co-founder bit?
What skills do you think a co-founder should have? But I think your answer says it, that the person should have that mental level of the founder and the vision. They should share the vision, is what I think you're.
Yeah, and you should always try to look for a co-founder who's not like you. Don't find a person who's like you. If you are looking for a co-founder, never go out in the usually you will find the co-founder, it just talks to you
Hmm.
that this is your co-founder,
Right.
right? Uh, but if you're going to, because I know young startups have to do this today, that they have to
Hmm.
physically go
Physically
out and
what?
look for a
Yeah.
co-founder. So if you're looking for a co-founder, don't find somebody who's like you, because you want somebody whose skills are complementary to you. You are looking for complementarity,
Mm-hmm.
not the same skills. You don't want a
Right.
replica. It can't be that you both love marketing and then you're fighting over it.
Right.
It should be, I love marketing, this person loves finance. Great, this could be a great co-founder for me.
Right.
If you're struggling to figure out what are the departments to divide in the beginning, you know they are not the perfect co-founder pair.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is. I, for example, love operations and uh, design and transformation in HR. My co-founder, on the other hand, looks at technology, investor relationships, and finance. So, very, very complementary
Balanced.
skill set. Yeah.
It's
I
balanced.
don't like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't like what he does. He doesn't like what I do. We're fairly sorted. We don't interfere in each other's lives, and it helps the company grow.
Right. So you mean basically it's one's weaknesses is the other person's strength. It's like that.
Absolutely.
So that.
Absolutely. Yin and yang.
Yeah, yeah, great. Okay, so I also want to know that being a woman entrepreneur, did you face any challenges? Did you face any positive or negative feedback from people around you that yes, you can do this, or somebody like you cannot do this? Being like a different, not different, I would say, but yeah, being from a woman perspective, what kind of chit chat did you have to hear?
I think I was fortunate to come into this ecosystem of an entrepreneurial journey and a startup at the time that already a lot of women entrepreneurs were around.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the percentage is still abysmal as compared to the number of men that are out there
Mm-hmm.
following their entrepreneurial dreams. But it wasn't empty by the time I entered the ecosystem, right? So a lot of the expectations had already been aligned, and I knew that it's not an easy journey. Um, I think more challenging than anything else was the fact that hospitality and women in hospitality are rather rare. So
Right.
in the beginning, when I started looking for properties, I did face a lot of resentment from some of the people who were leasing their properties right in the beginning, saying that a woman can't just walk in and run a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
like a big hotel and things like
Hmm.
that. So
Right.
I did face that from some of the people in the beginning, but I also became very, very. I think women tend to be like that. You tend to listen a lot more. That's
Mm-hmm.
because we've been taught to
Got, yeah.
listen and not speak up. Women speak up too little. Women need to learn to speak up a lot more. Um, so I was also listening a lot and learning a lot. So eventually, from all of this, I learned so much that now I'm able to crack excellent deals that nobody else can, because it can be fairly unnerving when a woman who's learned her craft
Hmm.
sits silent and lets you speak, and then opens her mouth, and
Right.
you have nowhere else to go then but to sign the deal the way she
Right,
wants it.
right, right, right. That's. I guess that's how women function. They sleep for
Yeah.
a bit, but when they wake up, then they literally wake up everybody else around them. All right. Okay. So any changes that you had to bring about in your the way you function in your life? Any changes? Any challenges that you had to overcome?
So, not in my case, because I have always been very career driven. So, whether frankly didn't see a change in my lifestyle, whether I was working in a corporate setup or doing my own startup.
Mm-hmm.
The only change was I couldn't crib about my bosses. That was the only change. But other than that, the number of hours didn't change. The passion with which I was working on my job or the passion with which I did my startup, both are equally same.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that I have a little more flexibility now as compared to earlier, because there are days that like I can call the shots because I'm the
Wow.
boss right
Hmm.
now. So,
Right.
but I think in terms of anything else, in terms of uh, work life balance and all, any of that, nothing changed. Nothing
Okay.
changed.
Okay. That's great.
I was equally happy with work life balance earlier. I'm equally happy with it now. Um, I think the only small thing that happened was when I quit my job to start my entrepreneurial journey, I was earning decently well. So we were bootstrapped for about 6 years, which meant that we were not drawing a salary.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a challenging bit, to not have salary come in
Right.
and to be dependent or to learn to live with lesser
Mm-hmm.
was something that was a bit of a challenge, but I think that was all.
Okay, great. Okay, anything that you think that you now that you know and earlier you did not know. So anything that changes that you would want to change that you know now, but you did not know that earlier. So anything that you would want to change. I'm not talking about regrets or anything, just something that you are aware of now, which you were not when you started your journey.
The entrepreneurial journey,
Yeah, yeah. Anything you would want to, kind of do it in a different way so that things would be a little different now.
I I don't think so. I think we made a lot of mistakes while we were growing up,
Mm-hmm.
while we were during this journey from day zero to
Mm-hmm.
day whatever we are at today.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we made a lot of mistakes during this time, but each mistake, the learning has been so immense that I would do it all over again, because if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have learned for the next phase or prepared myself for the next step.
That's right.
So I literally wouldn't change anything at all if I was to do it all over again.
Okay, that's great.
I am blessed with a great co-founder. We have grown this company slowly. In fact, in hindsight, when I look at it, um, when things don't happen when you plan for them, like we planned for a fundraise within 2 years of the business starting, and it didn't happen. At that time, it feels like it's such a big loss. Like you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do it. But I look at it in hindsight, it was the best thing that happened to us. So I think in hindsight, you come to realize that things happen for a reason, and
Reason.
you made the most of it, and you made, as in, if you're positive, you'll you'll make the most of that situation. Like,
Right.
I think that's how we approached the pandemic also. We knew that we're going to be shut down and so on and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
but we also knew that real estate is going to get depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Right.
we had that eye on the ball, right? Like,
Mm.
so you have to look at the silver lining to every cloud,
Right.
and chase that essentially.
Right. That's right. All right. And initially, I remember you mentioned when we were talking about the co-founder and mentors. So, I wanted to ask you that do you think like having a mentor, like you said, it's essential to have a co-founder? You think it's essential to have a mentor as well?
It helps. It definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
If you're building something that is extremely tech driven, have a mentor who can help you on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
If you're building something which is extremely operations intensive or people intensive, have somebody in HR that you can bounce your ideas off.
Mm-hmm.
Advisors and mentors
Right.
are very important, because founders tend to need to do everything on their own, and they don't have the subject matter expertise for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have mentors, you will always end up doing taking a better or more informed decision than you would have done it individually.
Right.
So reach out to mentors, talk to people, figure out people who will even as like for example, my co-founder and I, we're married. We were married before we started the business.
Oh, great.
Um, yeah, so we both come from a service background, and so we found a mentor in my mama mami, who are the only married business
Hmm.
couple, right? And because as a couple, when you're running a business together, there are dynamics that you don't understand that will
Hmm.
crop up.
Right. Right.
um, uh, Gender dynamics are something else, but as a business
Hmm.
couple running an organization, you have to understand and set up new dynamics. And it was very important for us to learn from another couple
Right.
on how they navigated through their differences while keeping their marriage intact,
Right.
because it's not
Right.
easy
Right. It's not.
navigating disagreements as far as business goes.
Right.
So I think that kind of mentorship also helped us.
Okay, great. Okay, and I would want to ask you another question about like we're talking about Women's Day that is coming up. Any advice you would want to give to the current anybody who's like thinking of starting a startup, a woman entrepreneur who's a little hesitant in starting up her journey? Any advice that you would want to give to her?
I think women tend to postpone their desires too much, uh, and they tend to rationalize their needs too much.
Hmm.
Is it really needed? Do I really want this? Can I
Right.
do without? I think just by the way we are brought up, we're also taught uh, to always be careful about, do we really need it? Do we really should we really want this? Or can
Hmm.
we do without it? So become very practical from the very beginning. I think as a result of it, a lot of the women don't start their entrepreneurial journey because they keep second guessing themselves. Um, I think I would like to break this advice into two parts. One is, if any woman wants to be an entrepreneur, if it's something that is there in their heart, first they should try and get a job. You know, work in a corporate setup, work in a company, learn from there, earn some money, build your own savings.
Right.
Um, because after that you're equipped with both the knowledge as well as the money
Hmm.
to start something on your own. Because when you will start something on your own, a lot of people will tell you that you're probably not doing the right. Even they may be supporting you, they may just tell you, why do you need to do this?
Hmm.
Why you're doing so well in your job? Why shouldn't you do this? Why shouldn't you just continue? Later on, you'll know there'll be other commitments in your life. Why are you building this, right? So if you're planning to follow an entrepreneurial journey and have an entrepreneur's life, have some savings, learn the skill, and then start
Hmm.
without thinking too much about what the other people are saying. Because if you have these two, the impact of what the other person is saying will reduce,
Right.
and you'll be able to take that step on your own. Even if it goes wrong for a couple of years, you can go back to what you were doing earlier. But with savings and with skill, you'll at least be able to take that first step and try it out, and
Hmm.
not deny yourself the joy of having tried it once,
Right.
even if you fail.
Right. That's right. That's great advice. Okay. So my last question will be a hypothetical question where I would want you to think that you have the liberty of inviting anybody over for dinner, and that person will not say no, will definitely come to your place to have dinner with you. So who would that person be, and what would you be discussing with that person?
Interesting question. There's so many people I want to talk to.
Okay, so you can pick up, say, you can pick up three of them who could come and join you.
Yeah, so I would like to talk to, I would like to invite Falguni Nair over and understand how she built her startup, what her journey was like, where did she start,
Hmm.
who did she have as the team when she started out,
Okay.
what was her vision. Yeah, so that'll be extremely beneficial for me to understand. Where does one start and where does one get to, and
Mhm.
how does one get there? Yeah, I think that'll be one. Another person that I would literally really love to talk to is Vidya Balan. I love
Okay.
the way she has recast the kind of roles that she gets even today. Nobody
Right.
else in the industry can pull that off, but
Right.
she can do relevant cinema, which is appropriate to her age and still
Mm.
be the center of that movie completely around her.
Right.
It's just brilliant. As in
And the
how she
kind of
pulls it off.
person she is, the way she
Yeah.
is, it's
Yeah.
commendable. She's a total different genre and all.
Yes, fairly unapologetic, and that is quite
Yes.
inspiring.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It is. Great. So it was great talking to you, Pallavi, and I think that a lot of women are going to get inspired by your journey because it is, for some, it'll be very difficult to do what you're doing, being married and taking up a business. So I think it'll be really a great help and a great lesson to people who are thinking and not taking up a journey because they're skeptical about it. Like you said, they think too much. So I hope that you had a good time. I had a great time, and it
Thank
was
you, Priyanka.
lovely to
It was
connect
lovely
with you.
interacting. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Same here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have a great
thanks,
day.
Priyanka. You too.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button and turn on the notifications so that you never miss an update. And do subscribe to the channel for more such freshly brewed content. Thank you.